This is the third video regarding ImageTrend for Clayton County Fire and Emergency Services. In this video we will be discussing additional tips and tricks for how to be more efficient in completing reports. So as always, we'll get to the incident list, go view existing fire because we're doing fire NFIRS reports. First trick I want to show you that's going to be very helpful is if you want to see just your calls. Which are your calls that are not done? You can come here to this apparatus ID and change it to in, and then you can select your units at your station. These are alphabetical, so we'll scroll down. Let's say we want to do Med 1, and we'll go back and do Engine 1 and Engine 1B. And then I'm going to hit go, and it's going to rebuild the list, only showing me the calls that those units were on, according to what's listed in this apparatus ID field right here. So if this is my report, I can now click on this button. This will open it in a new tab, which will save this list so I can come back to it. So now my new tab opens, and I'm ready to continue on with this call. As we showed in the other video, you can go on in and fill out this report. When I'm all done, we'll hit close. I'm not done with this report yet. I can hit close. This will take me back to the list, but I'm still in my new tab, so I can close this tab here, and now I'm back to my first list, which again only has the calls for Station 1. So let's go back to this incident report here I'm doing. We'll say this is a structure fire, and I'm working on completing this fire. You'll see that because I've selected the fire, just like in Firehouse, we have a few additional information fields to fill in for the fire report. These are NFIRS required fields, so we're always going to have to do these. So come in, here's our how many gallons of water were used on this fire. This is going to be a required field, so I'm going to have to put this number in. We use 500 gallons. How many buildings were involved? It was just one, so on and so forth. All the same questions. If it was obvious where the area of fire origin was, we can put that. Or again, you have your not values. If fire investigator was not there to determine all of that, then we can go ahead and put undetermined here. So you can see I've finished filling out this section here. You'll see that this arson section has popped up on the left side here. You can ignore that. That's not something the typical line people will need to fill out, and it's not going to be required. So we'll move on to the structure fire. This was a regular enclosed building that was occupied in normal use. Stories was 1, 0 below. If you're not sure on the square feet, you can put approximate size here, and that will not require that field. Fire origin was on the same first floor, and so on. Same questions as we had in Firehouse. These are NFIRS required. Were there detectors present? Yes or no. You can do your unknown, or if you did hear them going off, you can say they were present and they were smoke detectors. They probably had a battery, and it did operate and alerted the occupants. So those are some of the fields that we can fill in as required by NFIRS there. When you're doing a structure fire report, another thing that you may sometimes need to do is an exposure report. So that's what that number is there. But how do you add that separate report? The NFIRS guide defines an exposure as a fire resulting outside of the original fire, or as I like to simply put it, it's a fire that extended to another piece of property, such as a neighbor's house or additional vehicles. Those should all be exposure fires, which are additional reports. So in that case, the way that we'll do that is we'll complete the first fire. This is the original fire. Then you go down to the menu at the bottom, click on menu, and you will click add exposure. This is exposure number 1, so if we have multiple we can do continue on, but this will be the first exposure report. So now you can see that it has added this report. It has copied all of the main information. There's the run number. It's now exposure 1 because this is the first additional exposure. All the other information has been copied over. You can see the address is copied over as well. So if this is a neighbor's house, it will then be important to come in and change this address so that it now shows the properties, the neighbor's house that was damaged. and then you can come into the narrative. This location had heat damage from a neighbor's fire. So that's how you would do that. And then again, you can go on, continue, fill out any additional reports, finish this off, and when you come back, again, you'll have exposure number 1 and exposure 0 being the main fire, and you now have a report for each piece of property as required by NFIRS. Another thing that I wanted to cover was regarding mutual aid. If we ever respond inside the city limits of a department that has their own fire department, you'll see that the aid given or received section here, which is usually defaulted to none, will turn red. This is because, as you can click here and see, you can always click and see any error. This is any city limit that came from CAD. So we're going to clear that out and we'll say we did give mutual aid, and we gave it to Morrow, and hopefully, if possible, try and get their incident number. If you can get that, that's great. If not, you can type in unknown, and then you can go on filling out your report. But that mutual aid section is very helpful for us and collects some information that we frequently need to report on. One other important question that still applies is, I'm going to come back over here to the beginning. If there were any injuries, so if someone got hurt on scene, then this is still where we will fill that in. You'll notice once you do, here's our casualty report. So you can say who got hurt, the casualty number 1, if you know their name, hopefully we'll know their name, their birth date, and we will still fill this out. So we can finish filling that out. The workers' comp report will now be completed using the PDF forms that will be either in Station Forms or on eCompass, and those can be saved and submitted to headquarters as usual.